Mic is not working. Okay, can you tell me what is an S curve? Simply, I am not asking the whole procedure. Or you can tell me how can we make S curve from unit hydrograph? I am waiting. If you have answer, please tell me and drop down your hand. So Naira, I am waiting. If you have answer, please write it down. It seems not only mic, your speakers are also not working. Not good. I'm not getting any response. So up till now, your mic should have been right. Already, a semester is finishing. So at this time, these excuses will not work. My mic is not good. My video is not good. My link is not good. So this should have been resolved up till now. Okay. S curve is a hydrograph of surface runoff. So not correct. It is not simply a hydrograph. Hydrograph is flow versus time. And you have put the word surface runoff. So you are talking about unit hydrograph. You are going towards unit hydrograph. So how many of okay, anybody else? Zunera, you should work hard. Simple. One comment for you. Rakib, Aruj. Is it Rakib or Rajib?
Yes, sir, Rakib.
Rakib Aruj. Same question. What is S curve?
Sir, S curve is a hydrograph that would result from infinite series of unit runoff.
S curve is a hydrograph that is
That results from infinite series of unit runoff.
unit hydrograph and unit runoff. Okay, fine. So what was coming in my mind? It is a cumulative runoff hydrograph. So that can be obtained by thinking that there is a series of unit hydrograph, infinite series of unit hydrograph, and when we add the ordinates of those, then we get the what we call it S curve.
And पे ऐड करते
That's,
हैं वो S curve की image बन जाती है.
that's correct, and we use it for calculating for conversion of the unit hydrograph. So we give it a lag. We first make an S curve, then we give it a lag of t duration, and the t duration is that one for which we want to make unit hydrograph. T duration is the new duration. Then we subtract two S curves, one original, one lagged, and then we multiply it with a factor d over t, I think, what if I remember correctly, d over t. So that's fine. So in the last part of previous lecture, we started the topic of floods, and we have already informed to you, I think, what is a flood, a high level or high stage in the river, and how much high when the level or stage goes beyond the full from the bank levels, we got full capacity of the main channel when causes and the bank is considered as the bank of the main channel, but the main channel is in the middle, which remains inundated, which remains underwater throughout the year. So that is the main channel. When water level goes beyond the banks of the main channel, then we say flooding is there. And initially flood occurs on the flood banks, on the flood plains. This area on the sides of the river is called floodplain. And those people who are living close to the river, they know what is the other name for this place. Any person living close to Indus or Chenab, what they call this place? दरिया के साथ साथ का जो इलाका है, what do we call that place in local language? क्या कहते हैं उसको? There are sometimes forest over there. So we call that place, this place as the Kacha, Kache ka ilaka. That is all along the Indus River on the both side. And there is a strip on both sides of the river where flooding do occur frequently. Nearly every year flood comes over there. And when flood recede, the flood water leave over there very fertile soil over there, clay and silty soil over there, and that land is very fertile with respect to crops and agriculture. And people grow at least one crop over there. After the flood season, they grow it over there. And nowadays, because flood protection band are there, so people can grow even two crops also over there, are perennial crops like perennial mean all year. That crop which remain on the ground for the whole year, that is perennial. So people can grow over there perennial crops, and they have orchards over there. So that's the floodplain area. And then we have the settled area. So usually we make the embankment to protect the settled area. We don't allow people to build permanent structures within the floodplain area, because that has to be frequently flooded. So what is a flood? When high stage in the river, and how much high? When it is above the bank of the main channel of the river, we say this is flooding. There are different reasons of causes of floods. Some of them you already know. For example, excessive rainfall, you can understand if it is there, the flooding will be there. Excessive snow melt can cause slow rise of the flow, and sometimes that flow rises above the banks. But that is not that does not cause much harm, excessive snow melt, because we get sufficient alarm for that. It is not sudden rise of the water. Dam failure causes huge losses, because this is sudden. Usually we don't get some alarms. If dam fails and a huge wave is released from the reservoir of the dam, then dam break, flood do occur. Landslide outburst. If there is a landslide and it has stopped the flow of the water, and then that landslide is broken because of the overflow of water, and that is like a dam break. So that can occur, and sometimes people don't know that there has been a landslide on the upper reaches, and now when it has broken, so suddenly they get some floods. Similar is the condition in case of the Glofs, very famous terms in case of nowadays people talk about these Glofs quite a lot, because Glof is the glacier lake outburst flood. First, there is a lake formed because of glacier. Some glacier, it stopped the river flow, and at the back of the glacier, if the water is collected, and that that start working as a reservoir. So ice and the debris, they combine together to restrict the flow. And when the flow is restricted in the river, then a reservoir-like condition is created on the upstream side. And sometime when the season change, temperature rises, that ice and that debris, that gives way to water, and the dam break like condition occur. So Glof flood is because of the breakage of the dam made by the glacier. So if that glacier melts, the flow is released on the downstream side, and like a dam break failure, this Glof also can cause huge flooding on the downstream side. So when this flooding is there, why I am saying that this is talk of the research community who are working with respect to climate change. Reason is that it has been seen that with the change of the climate, when the temperature is rising, more and more Glof-like phenomena are occurring. A few years back in Pakistan also, one Gloff event occurred and a newly constructed hydropower, some of the structures of that hydropowers were also damaged. So I think Batura glacier lake outburst flood, maybe I think that was the example of that. So such floods do occur, and in Himalaya region, in Karakoram region, Himalaya region, which are the source of water for Pakistan, these Gloves events are increasing because of the climate change. So we should be at least knowing what is Glove. So here is the example of the dam break, and it can cause huge flooding. Here is the example of the landslide. Landslide occurrence over here, and the reservoir is created whenever this, because this is not a structures, this blockage of the river is not engineered. Just water is the just less soil and the debris and the rocks have stopped the water. So most of such landslide dams are breached, are broken within a year. Most 99% of them break within a year. Some remain over there, and if they don't fail in 1 or 2 years, then they are considered as stable. But still, vigilance should be carried out over there. We have to remain vigilant to see if some symptoms of the failure are there or not. So one of the example of such landslide reservoir or landslide made dam is what we call it Atabad Lake in Pakistan, in Hunza, on Hunza River in Gilgit side. So that is still there. I think it was formed in 2005 or 7 or 2010. So about 10 years have gone. Slide is not yet broken, and a beautiful lake has been created over there. Uh, to reduce the damages because of the dam break of that Atabad landslide, the NDMA and the other government institution, they engineered a path for flow to be released on the downstream side. In the first year, they made a weir at the top of that slide so that water should pass over that weir and should be released downstream rather than suddenly the whole dam should be broken. So that weir do work in the summer season, and in the winter season flows are less. But still, that landslide dam has not been broken. But there are other landslides in Kashmir and other places. Those have been really, those have been breached, and the floods have occurred on the downstream side. Then this is the figure of the glaciers made a lake, and so this can be glacier can cause a blockage within the path of the river by itself. A glacier, a part of it is broken, it flows down, and at a narrow space, it blocks the flow. So it is possible that the glacier in the same channel do block the flow. Another possibility is a glacier from the side. It moves down and blocks the path of the other channel. For example, this glacier B or this glacier C, if they melt down, or the glacier's tail is usually moving downstream side. So if they move and they come to the, they block the path of the other river, so a lake will be created on the upstream side. And if that lake is that lake level is increased and this path have been broken, then flood will come on the downstream side and can affect the urban area, can affect the residential area and the people living on the downstream side. So that can cause huge damages also. For dam break and the landslide and the glacier lake outburst flood, it is all of them are like a dam condition have been created. In Gulf, dam condition have been created because of the glacier, the pieces of the glacier, pieces of the ice broken from the ice are coming from the side glacier. While in case of landslide, a whole mass of the hill stops the flow of water in a channel. While in case of dam, our engineers have built an obstruction in the path of the flow. So any of them, if broke, it can cause flood downstream. But these are these should not occur. They cause huge floods. Normal flooding which we get in Pakistan are because of the huge monsoon rainfall, excessive rainfall. Over here in this Punjab and in KPK or in Sindh area, we are getting flooding because of monsoons flooding. So season of the flooding is July, August, and sometimes September. But in the western part of Pakistan, like Balochistan, like coastal area of Pakistan, sometimes we get the flood not in monsoon season, but we get the flood in this February season, when the westerlies are strong. The westerlies storm season is strong, so then they get huge flooding, and sometimes dam break flood also occur because of the flooding in February. But this happens in western side of Pakistan, Balochistan side, and similar. So in this eastern and the central part of Pakistan and in south of Pakistan in Sindh, we get flooding in monsoon, but we get flooding in other season, in winter season, because of the heavy western storms. We can get flooding in. One of the dam was failed in Balochistan, and its name was Shadi Khair Dam or Shadi Khor Dam. So that have caused loss of lives also, and that failed in February because of the huge rain. The capacity of the spillway was not sufficient. Water flow over the dam, and when water flows over the dam, dam break occur. Dam cannot withstand that overflowing water. So there now, knowing what is a flood, knowing why do they occur, we engineer are frequently asked us, tell us the design flood. Tell me the what if you are constructing a new structure. Tell us the value of the flow or flood for which this structure should be designed, for which the spillway of this structure should be designed, for which the opening within the bridges, the path of the water through the bridges, how much path of the water I should provide. That controls the length of the bridge. So how much should be the length of the bridge that should sufficiently pass over here? So what should be the design flood? So depending upon the importance of the structure, there are different ways to decide the possible floods over there. So some of the methods are mentioned over here are empirical methods. People have developed equations, like they have developed equation for estimation of the flow for any rainfall, the runoff for any rainfall. People have estimated, have developed equations like we have studied Khosla, Lacey, and English method for estimation of the direct runoff if the rainfall is known to us. Similarly, instead of estimation of the only direct runoff, people have given us the equations which can tell me the value of the peak flood, which can tell me the flood which will be generated because of a certain rainfall in a certain region. So we cannot have the same equation for all the region. So for different part of India and Pakistan, people have developed the equations, and so have been done for other part of the world. And this unit hydrograph method can also be used if we have the unit hydrograph for the storm of our interest. Then we can use unit hydrograph to find the peak also. Unit hydrograph can tell me the total volume of water also. It can tell me the peak flow also. And another method is the flood frequency analysis. This is a statistical method. If we have sufficient number of the years of the data, then this flood frequency analysis can be carried out to estimate the return period of floods and flood of different return period. So these methods are important, and we should be knowing it, and we should be knowing which one should be used in the area of our interest. And if the historical flood values are not with us, sometimes we go to the site and ask the people of the old age, those are elderly people. We ask them, within your uh, within your memory, within your known, within your life history, or what you have heard from your forefathers. So what was the water level in this area? What was the maximum water level observed in this area for a certain flood? So then they can recall their memory and they can tell you that during my childhood or during that year, the water level reached in this area up to this at this level of the house or at this level of the tree. So they can mark or they can give the flood level they have experienced in that area. So those flood levels, if we gather it from a certain area along a river, we can convert that water level into how much flood might have passed this place using our engineering formula like Manning's equation we can use. If we know the flow area, if we know the slope, we can estimate the velocity using a suitable Manning's roughness coefficient, and we can estimate the velocity v is equal to 1 over n r power 2 by 3 s under root. So S and flow area, we will get it from the site itself, from the river which we are interested in. We will go over there, we will carry out this land survey, and we will find how much is the slope of the bed of the channel. And flow area we will be getting, our hydraulic radius we will be getting from the information the person has given us that water level was up to this mark. So if we have the cross section of that place, water level is marked, so flow area, other geometrical parameters like hydraulic radius, wetted perimeter can be calculated. And slope we have surveyed from that area, and we can estimate or we can judge it from the area whether it is silty river, whether it is a river having the boulders inside it. So n we can select from our engineering judgment. For a smooth channel, we can select smooth channel like concrete lined channel. We can select 0.016. For earthen channel like channels in our canals, very smooth channel having sand inside it, so 0.025. For rough channel, we can go to 0.03. And so knowing the average values of n for different kind of the rivers, we can select a suitable n value, and then we can calculate the v value, velocity in the flow, velocity of that flood. If velocity is known, multiplied with the flow area, you get the discharge of that flood. So that is the way. Uh, if we don't have the measured discharges at that places, if we don't have a gauging station at that place, then we can use this flood marks method from the previous flood marks while visiting in the area. But if we have the data of the floods measured over there using the gauging station over there, then that is the best source. That is the best source. So that is what I have talked to you, that if some flood marks are with you, you can mark that on the cross sectional of that river, and you can find R, and you can have S, and then you can have the velocity, and then discharge can be found. One of the mic seems to be on, so please switch off your mics other than me. किसी एक बच्चे का माइक ऑन है. Akib, please switch off your mic. Okay. ये हो गया. तो इसमें अभी तक कोई क्वेश्चन है कि अगर आपके पास, if you don't have the previous data, how you can estimate the flood? It seems to be easy, but it is quite hectic job. You have to visit, for example, if I am working in Sawat area, if I have the hydropower project in Sawat area and there is no hydrological station over there, I will not get the flow data over there. How can I get the flood data? So then we have to live in that area. We go in that area, we visit to different people. Some of them will tell us that, okay, flood level was this much, this much. We mark them and we get the data, we find which is more credible, and then we select it. And we don't ask only at one place along the river, we visit it for several days and we interview the people, and then we ask them, and then that is converted into the flows. Like the rational method we can use for estimating of the direct runoff, similarly the rational method, this method we studied in flow estimation also. Flood is a special kind of flow. So same method can be used for estimation of flood peak runoff also. So peak discharge we can estimate CIA. This C is the coefficient which is dependent upon the type of the catchment, which is dependent upon the watershed characteristics, whether it is releasing a lot of flows, whether it is losing a lot of water of the rainfall. So I is the intensity of the rainfall for which we want to find the flood. So usually the high flood will be related to the high precipitation levels. So first we select the maximum precipitation for which we want to find the flood. So I is the intensity of the rainfall in a certain duration and return period. This return period and will be discussed later on. There are two ways of selecting the design flood for a certain structure. One is based on the return period, and one is based upon the probable maximum flood. So return period concept is that flood of higher values will occur, their chances of occurrence is less. So flood of 100-year return period will occur once in 100 years, is expected to occur once in 100 years. So its value will be higher as compared to a flood whose return period is 50-year return period. So that will its value will be less. So the designers select based upon the importance of the structure what should be the return period for which I should calculate the discharge or which I should select the design discharge. So he first decide the return period. Usually we relate it with the life of that project. If a structure has to remain over there for 25 years, then then we select that it's the design flood should be at least have a return period of 25 years. So if a structure has to remain there for a longer period, like barrage is 50, 100 year, or when we also see if this when the structure's economical life will be completed. Economical life of a structure is when it paybacks its cost. So we say this is its economical life. So from the economical analysis that we are spending so much money on this structure, so this money will be returned back with so much rate of return after 50 year, after 25 year. So that is the economic life of the project. Maybe its operational life is more than that. And depending upon the importance, we select what should be the return period for a certain structure. Just for example, these barrages we design for 100-year return period. These embankment we design them for sometime 50 years, sometime 25-year return period. There is a temporary embankment, we call it coffer dam. When we make a barrage or dam, sometimes we have to make an embankment that we need only for the construction period. So for them, so we call that temporary embankment or bund as coffer dam, COFFER, coffer dam. So that is temporary structure. After the construction have finished, that structure is no more required. So we don't have to design it for a return period of 100 years. So sometimes 25-year return or 10-year return is considered sufficient. So what we expect that if the flood of more than 10-year return period or 25-year return period comes, it will breach. But then we will accept those losses that we design it for a lower return period, expecting that during the construction period, so much flood will not come. So that is the logic behind it. We cannot design every structure for the maximum possible flood at that place. That is economical, not viable. That is not an economical solution. So we, based upon the importance, based upon the duration for which that structure has to be there, we select a certain return period. You should keep in mind, flood with a higher return period has higher values, flood with a lower return period has lower values. When we say this is a flood of 1 year return period, it means we can expect this flow or flood every year. So that will be a lower value. That will be a lower value that is expected every year. So For a certain return period, uh, the discussion started from here. I is the intensity of the rainfall of a certain duration. We should select the duration based upon the time of concentration, but it should be, this rainfall should be that of a certain return period. Means, for example, if I selected the rainfall of a 50-year return period, so it means it is expected that rainfall of this much or more than this is expected once in 50 years, not more than that. If it is expected twice in 50 years, it means its return period is 25 years. So return period, how to select the return period, that is a very important aspect. People don't talk about it a lot. You should be knowing, because if you are designing a certain structure, people will expect, and usually we, without considering, we select 50 year, 100 year. Its relation is, which return period should be selected, its relation is with respect to life of the project, importance of the project, how much damages we can accept, how much risk we can accept. So if we want to make something a zero risk structure, then a very high return period or probable maximum flood will be selected. But then your cost of the project will increase much high. So that you have to then bear. So it is, you increase the return period, your structure will be more safe, but you will be incurring more cost initially. So we select an intensity of the rainfall. C is dependent upon the condition of the watershed. A is the watershed area. And keep in mind, previously I think we did not discuss, this formula is very much unit specific. This is empirical formula, very much unit specific. If I is in inch per hour, not in any other unit, and area is in acres, not in miles square or feet square. Area is in acres, intensity is in inch per hour, C as given in the literature from 0.05 to 0.95. More impermeable surface in the watershed, more higher C value will be there. And if it is 100% impervious and no evaporation losses, then C will be 1. It means whatever is the rainfall coming, multiply by area, same will be the runoff reaching to the outlet, reaching to the place. So if intensity is in inch per hour and area is in acres, then this peak discharge will be calculated by this formula in Q6. But if we are using SI system and area is in hectares, intensity of the rainfall is in millimeter per hour, and discharge will be calculated in cubic meter per second. Another word for this is cumix. Cumix are cubic meter per second. Then we have to multiply this CIA with a factor 1 over k, that is equal to 1 over 360. So k is 360. So we multiply this rational formula in SI system with 1 over k, and k is 360. That is conversion factor to give us the flow or peak flood in cubic meter per second. So if we have a multiple of areas, different condition in the watershed area, then a weighted C value will be calculated. So here is an example. So in literature, large tables are available which define the watershed area type and propose runoff coefficient. So this range is also quite high. So we have to select some judgment of our own to select a proper C value. Usually what we do is to avoid any risk over there, we go for the higher values of the C, because we are calculating the flood values. So residential area 0.3 up to 0.75 is possible. Industrial area 0.5 up to 0.9 is possible, depending upon how much industrialization is there. So as I say, more impermeable area, higher will be C value. If 100% is impervious, so 0.9, 0.95 can be taken, because some evaporation will be there. So this table this is given by American Society of Civil Engineering, they have given. So this is one of the method which people use to calculate the design flood for smaller structures like culverts under the bridges, for designing the urban sewerage system or urban drainage system. People rely on this method heavily. This is quick and this is easy. So this one question you have to carry it out and to calculate the flood peak or flood discharge for an area in which the design rainfall. So this rainfall is not selected as any rainfall of the previous year. So they have thought about it for what return period we want to design this structure. Usually these urban areas are developed based upon 5 to 25-year return period rainfalls. We expect that after within a 5 year, once this urban area will be flooded, we expect that within a 10-year period, this urban area will be flooded once or twice. We cannot design such areas for probable maximum precipitation because then sewers will be too large, then drainage system will be too expensive, which we cannot afford. So similar concepts are there in designing highways and other structures also. Similar is with respect to earthquake selection for design of the buildings and the bridges. They select forces which has a possibility of occurrence one in a certain number of years. For example, with respect to capacity of the road, largest, I think first or second largest 29th year return period traffic volume is selected for designing the roads capacity over there. So similar is concept over here. So this is an example for a culvert design. Hopefully everybody knows what is a culvert. Culvert is a kind of cross drainage structure under the roads, under the bridges. If some nala has to cross, if some drain has to cross, or some small river has to cross, we provide some pipes or we provide some concrete boxes so that the water should not be stopped because of the road or this embankment. So a culvert is constructed. What should be the design capacity of that culvert? Usually we don't get a gauging station which tells me historical 30-year floods over here are so much. So if that is the case, then I will carry out the frequency analysis and I will get it over there. First, we get the rainfall for that place from the meteorological station which lie close by is also good. If it does not lie within the watershed, then the close by rainfall is good. So from there, we carry out we see the rain of the return period of our interest, and then that rainfall is used to in this rational formula. We see what is the kind of the drainage basin. For example, they have told that it has an area of 800 hectares, and out of it 90% is covered with the trees, for which C value is given. So it is the industrial parks, railroads, unimproved lawns, streets, driver roofs. So agriculture kahan hoga? Residential, business. So this is for urban area. These are the coefficient for the urban area. We can have the table which can give us the improved area, like the normal watershed area for those. So they have given that the C value for the rational method is 0.4 when where the forests are there, 90% of the area is covered with the trees. And there is a 10% area which has no forest, but it has exposed rocks like an impermeable area. So for that, C value is proposed as 0.8. If you are doing actual problem, this C value you have to select based upon the visit of that area, knowing which kind of land cover is there. So, and using the tables available from the American Society of Civil Engineers or other sources. So intensity of the rainfall is 30 millimeter per hour. So this has to be calculated. So in this formula, use will be that which is good for SI system. And 1 over K times CIA you have to calculate, and take care that you have to select suitable units, convert into suitable units. For example, I could have given you area in acre, rainfall in inches per hour, and or area in miles square I can give you, or kilometers square I can give you. Then you have to convert them into the suitable units that should be taken care of. So in Excel, I have done this thing, I think, rational method, same question, I have done it. So area is given for trees, zero point 0.4 is the C value, 90% of the area is covered with the tree, 10% area is covered with rocks, its C value is 0.8. So first we have to calculate the weighted C value, weighted or average C value, WEIGHT, weighted or average C value. So that is based upon the percentage of the area, we multiply them with the respective C value, and we add them together. For example, this 90% multiplied by 0.4 plus 10% multiplied by 0.8 will give me the weighted C value. So इसने calculate क्यों नहीं किया? So if you have to select it, can somebody check? It comes out to be 0.44 weighted C value plus 0.9 into 0.4 plus. That comes out to be 0.44. So I put it over here. And then formula is 1 over K into CIA. 1 over K or CIA divided by K. So that comes out to be 29.33. Please solve it yourself and try to understand it. It's a simple method, can be used for smaller structures. Usually if we are doing the design of the dams, large structures, then we don't rely on this rational formula. We go for the other methods of flood estimation. Okay, what else? Empirical approach are there, like English, like Khosla, like Lacey. A number of formulas are there which gives us flood values in a certain area. For example, for India, there is a formula known as Dickon formula. Q is equal to Q peak. Peak flow is equal to a coefficient time area power 3 by 4. So now this formula is not good for anywhere in the world. This is only good for central and northern part of India. Central and northern part of India, and C value are proposed by Dickon in the form of a map over here, right hand side. So I have taken this, I think, from the irrigation book written by Garg, Irrigation Engineering and Hydraulic Structure by S.K. Garg, Garg. So for different area, wherever your structure is located, get a C value from this map. For example, I think over here is the Haryana and the Punjab of India. So for that, they are using C value of 3 because plain area, much infiltration. So C value of lower is selected over here. So if we take C value of 3, multiply with the area of the watershed, we can get the peak flood generated in this area. So no parameter of the rainfall is there because I think that is inbuilt inside it. Depending upon the area, they know how much is the maximum precipitation in that area. Another formula given by Reeves for central part of the India, he proposed that if the area is within 80 kilometers from the east coast, then C value should be selected. He used C1 6.8, and if it is away from the coastal area, it should be selected 8.4, and for other areas, limited areas near hills, 10.2. So he proposed a little bit different formula, C1 into A power 2 by 3. Here A power 3 by 4. So if C value, if we use from this table, we can get QP for the coastal regions in a better way. English has proposed formula for Bombay and western part of India, and it has again no precipitation term is there, but because he has specified the area, so within this formula the precipitation is inbuilt in this formula. Widely used in Maharashtra for design of small catchments. A constant having a value of 49 for South India and 60 for Northern India. So C over here is a constant 49 and 60 for Northern or the southern part of the India. North India has higher values because of the higher slopes. So C into A1 power 0.93 minus 1 over 14 log of A1. Only area specific. So if watershed is small, Q peak will be less. Watershed is large, because they know the historically what was the rainfall over there. For Pakistani side, some researcher, how they have developed this formula. Actually, for these area, if they had the gauging station for different kind of the rainfall, they have seen what flood have occurred. So if they have 10, 20, 30 values of flood and the precipitation and the area with them, they have developed the empirical relationship using the graphs or some statistical methods. So Q peak for Jhelum river catchments, upper Jhelum river catchment has been proposed by Hafiz Asif. A power 0.72, S power 0.32. S is the watershed slope, A is the watershed area. Similarly, for Upper Chenab area, Usman Naim, he is professor, associate professor in Texla. He worked over here in UET also, and he's BSc graduate from Civil. So QP is 1.005, A power 2.46, S power 4.22. Similarly, other area you can, if it is a smaller area, smaller project like the culverts, like the small bridges, you can use rational method. If it is in the upper part of the Chenab River, you can use this method. If it is a big area, then other method like unit hydrograph you can use to estimate the peak flood, or you can use what else frequency distribution method. And after the break, I will tell you what is the frequency, how to calculate the frequency of a different flood events. So have a 5-minute break and we can continue over here. So if you have in between any questions, I can take few questions now. किसी का सवाल है? How to estimate the flood? Why floods are necessary to be estimated? How we can select a design flood? That is more important. How you select a design flood? So based upon importance, based upon the life, based upon the risk we can take, we select design flood. And for selection of the design flood, we have to rely either on a probability approach, frequency distribution approach, or based upon the return period. Both have inbuilt that how much risk we can accept. Ji Rakib Aruj, you have a question. Welcome.
मेथड आपने बताया ये तो पूरे इंडिया में इनको
दोबारा बोलो, आवाज कट के आ रही है सर। ये पूरे इंडिया में क्या बोला आपने?
पूरे इंडिया में भी एप्लीकेबल नहीं है, तो फिर हम
किस मेथड की बात कर रहे हो?
जो आप ये बता रहे थे इंडिया वाले मेथड
पूरे इंडिया में एप्लीकेबल नहीं है। ये तो पूरे इंडिया का मैप नजर आ रहा है मुझे। So in this Dickon method, they have given the C value for different part of India. Why you are saying this is not applicable for whole India?
आप कह रहे थे ये मतलब में एप्लीकेबल है।
Can you write your question? आपकी आवाज कट के आती है। Can you write your question?
Sir, after break I will ask.
After the break you will ask. Okay, चलो ठीक है, thank you. So I stop the recording. Hopefully you are seeing this. So you can get these files from here. Engineer Usman Ali file is there. If you have problem, you tell me. I think this is available to you people. If anybody have tried to download them. If any of you have tried to download these files from here, from the file section. Rakib.
Yes sir.
कभी डाउनलोड किया यहाँ से?
No sir.
नहीं, आपकी आवाज बड़ी कटती है. So you can get these recordings over here. Previously it used to go to MS Stream. Now they have changed and now it is coming over here. Okay, अब अपना क्वेश्चन जरा बोलो. Patu, you can ask the question now. Okay.
इसका आवाज
Jay, I'm listening.
सर मैं कह रहा था मतलब आपने जो इंडिया वाले मेथड बताए हैं कि वो सिर्फ इंडिया के कुछ पार्ट्स में है ना एप्लीकेबल हैं, तो फिर सर हम उनको क्यों पढ़ रहे हैं? तो वो पाकिस्तान में तो एप्लीकेबल नहीं होंगे।
हाँ, हम क्यों पढ़ रहे हैं? Just to tell you that empirical methods are there, but some part of India, for example, this northern part of India, they are similar to the northern part of Pakistan, and the western part of India, like their Punjab, their Haryana, are like Punjab over here, and there this Gujarat state, this 6 number, that is similar to Sindh over here. So we can get for these areas same methods. We have used these methods using these equations over here in Punjab also. And to tell you that we have to develop such methods for this area also. समझ आई?
यस सर।
Why are you saying they're not applicable to the whole part of India? For Dickens method, they have covered the whole India. Why you are saying that they are not covering the whole India?
सर वो आप कह रहे थे ना उनके मतलब कुछ पार्ट्स मतलब साउथ नॉर्थ, तो मतलब वो उन पार्ट्स
Reeves say that this is close to the coastal area, 80 किलोमीटर, 80 से 160 किलोमीटर. ये तो जो जहाँ applicable है वो बताना पड़ेगा. ये इसके लिए बनाया है उसने. This is for Bombay and Deccan only, this method. So hopefully Bombay metrology seems to be similar to Karachi, I think. Coastal area, हमारा जो coastal area उनके साथ. And western part of India is this Gujarat and this thing, which is close to the Tharparkar and Sindh area. And here are for Upper Chenab and Upper Jhelum River. In more Pakistani literature, if you search, you will find some method because books are written mostly by Indians, so we get those methods over there. Okay, hydrograph, we have gone through this. So this topic is in continuation of this topic. Flood frequency analysis is, I have made it separate, although it is part of this flood analysis method. Some background I have already told you that if we have a series of flood data with us, when we have a series of flood data available to us, or rainfall data available to us, we have observed rainfall for several years, we have, for example, flow data for several years. So then we can apply statistical method, and one of the statistical method is frequency analysis to calculate what is the return period of a certain flood. What is the return period of a certain flood? So in these few slides, 10, 12 slides, we will be telling how to carry out the flood frequency analysis to calculate the return period of certain series of floods. Keep in mind, not every flow is a flood, but flood will be observed or recorded in the similar way as of we are observing the flows. We will be having a gauging station at a location, and in a year, if they tell us that the maximum water level have reached at this stream to this level, so we can convert that maximum water level into flow value or flood value by rating curve. So maybe if they are observing flow on daily basis, not every value is of interest for flood analysis. The highest value in a year is of interest for flood analysis. So keep in mind the difference between flow and flood. So flood we can observe in the similar way as the flows, but not every flow is a flood. So flood frequency analysis is one of the methods of estimation of the return period, and based upon the return period, we select the design flood. Design flood is that value of flood which we use for design of a structure. So flood magnitude are determined corresponding to different return periods, and definition of the return period will come, I think, somewhere. Let me tell it to you. So return period is the average number of years during which a flood of a given magnitude is expected to be equaled or exceeded once. तो इसको स्पून के साथ आराम से पढ़ें. It is the number of year. It is the average number of year during which a flood of a given magnitude, for example, 10,000 cubic, is expected to be equal or exceeded. So if we have a flood value, 1 lakh cubic, for example, after how many years or within how many years this is expected to be equal to or this or more than this. So if we say that it will happen once in 10 years, so return period of that flood is 10 years. Opposite question can also be asked. So this is the return period, tell me the flood value. So, but today problem is, if you have the flood series data, if you have the data of the floods, how to calculate the return period. So I think that is not part, briefly I will tell you that you can extend a flood frequency curve to estimate the flood of higher values. So we should know the definition of the return period, or sometime we call it recurring interval, and keep in mind this is expected to exceed or equal. Actually, it may not occur, and actually it may occur after next year. So because frequency analysis is working based upon the previous historical data, if flood of a certain value have occurred once in 10 years, we say its return period is 10 years. If it occurs once in 100 years, we say its return period is 100 years. So going step by step, what is flood frequency analysis? Is a statistical method. What we need for this purpose is past flood data is required. Past flood data, although very simply it is stated, but keep in mind still hydrologists do make mistakes that sometimes they have the flow data which is averaged every day, or which is averaged after 10 days, or averaged on a monthly basis. They consider this is the flood value. Flood value is usually the peak value recorded in a year. The annual flood values are the peak flow, instantaneous peak flow recorded in a year. The recommended length for flood frequency analysis is at least 30 years. If we have less than 10 years, we should not carry out flood frequency analysis. Also in the same time, if you have a 30-year data of flood frequency analysis, and you have calculated the return period based upon this data, then extension is sometimes required to find the flood of higher return period. Although recorded is 30 year, but sometimes we are interested to find the flood of 50-year return period. So then we carry out the flood frequency curve extension. So that extension should not go beyond one more 30 year. It should not be for 60 years. It should not be for further 100-year return. So whatever is the base period data, similar number of year we can extend it with some risk in it. The frequency, definition of the frequency, and we know what is frequency with respect to frequency of electricity. We heard it, frequency of our voice is known to us, frequency of light is known to us. So frequency is the word which is common to us, but frequency with respect to flood is the number of the times that a given magnitude flood occurs in a given period. Number of time that of flood of a certain value do occur in a certain time period. So knowledge of the magnitude and probable frequency of reoccurrence of flood is necessary for design of the structures, bridge, dams, levees, culverts. Effective management of the flood plains, frequency is required, and frequency is related to the time period. You will see to predict possible flood magnitude. These things I have discussed earlier. So there are flood series can be categorized into two types. One is the annual flood series, and one is called as partial duration flood series. Annual flood series record highest momentary instantaneous peak discharge in a water year. If we are measuring flow on a daily basis, then if you see that record, which is developed by irrigation or water department, they will be mentioning the daily flow at the bottom of the page, at the bottom of that record. They will mention the instantaneous or momentary peak discharge observed during the whole year is so much. That they calculate from the highest water level observed. The daily flow is the average of 1 day flow. So don't think that the daily flow of a certain day is the momentarily or instantaneous highest peak. So if you are observing if you are getting the data of the flood from the relevant department, WAPDA or irrigation, sometimes they only gives you the flow data. Our flood analysis particularly ask them, I need the peak flood, annual peak flood data. So they might have it recorded separately. So that data you need it. Annual peak floods. So that is the instantaneous or momentary peak discharge observed in that stream within the whole year. It will be one value. The use of only one flood in each year is the most frequent objection to the use of the annual flood series. Although this is most commonly used method, we get the peak flood series of last 30, 40 years, and we carry out the frequency analysis. But if you see the flood hydrograph of several years, and we get the flood peak of every year. For example, in 1990, this is the peak flood, so we record it. In 1991, this one is the peak flood, we record it. In 92, this is the peak. In 93, this one is the peak. So there is an objection on this method that while you are recording the highest peak of one year, then you are ignoring several other flood peaks which are higher than some other year's highest value. For example, if I give some value over here, it has a 50,000 cubic of peak flood in 1990. So more than this flood have occurred thrice in 1991. So while we are recording the highest value, we are ignoring this. So this is one of the objections which is raised on this annual flood series data, and this have been addressed, and people have recommended also to use partial duration flood series, in which we record floods which occurred in a certain year which are higher than a certain base value. We select a certain discharge value that anything beyond this, if it is observed, we will record it as a flood. So that base flood is generally selected as equal to the lowest annual flood, so that at least one flood is in each year is included. So one method of selection of the base flood above which all the floods will be recorded as a partial duration flood series is that select the lowest value of the flood in the whole series. For example, in this 4-year series, 92 has the lowest. So we select this one as a base flow. So all the peaks observed above this value will be recorded as a partial duration flood series. Sometimes when we select the lowest value as a base flow, it happens that there are several floods recorded. There are so many floods recorded in a certain wet year. Sometimes there may be no flood in a year, and maybe 3 or 4 peaks occur in the other year. If base flood is selected is not the minimum one. If we select base flood higher than this, then this problem can occur. So base flood is usually selected as the lowest flood in a certain year in the whole series. In the whole series, if we select the lowest flood peak, so higher value than that will be selected. So this series we call as a partial duration flood series. Flood frequency analysis is next step. First we have to find the data. So you will be finding either annual flood series, or you can specially collect the partial duration flood series. If one's flood series is with you, then you can calculate its return period, you can calculate its probability of occurrence of each flow, and then you can carry out the analysis on that. So if you have the flood series available to then the return period is actually is inverse of the probability. Return period is probability inverse of the probability, and the probability is defined in the statistical books that it is the measure of likelihood or possibility. Probability is the science of possibilities. So probability is a measure of likelihood that an event will occur in a random experiment. For example, a random experiment is that experiment whose outcome are random. We cannot forecast. So that is called as random experiments. For example, if you toss a coin, so it has two sides. So if we say that there is no possibility that it will be standing, so either one side will be the result of a tossing experiment. So there is if that coin is not if that coin is well made, and if it is not heavy on one side and light on the other side, or nobody have made any changes to it, then there is 50% chances that head will be coming and 50% chances that the tail will be coming. And we cannot forecast that head will come more because this is unbiased coin. So likelihood that head will be coming is 50%. So from here we can understand the concept of probability. It is a likelihood of occurrence of a certain event. In tossing, it is the head or tail. So if head will occur, what is the likelihood of that? So that we in statistics or in mathematics we call this is the probability, and usually we measure it from 0 to 1 or 0 to 100%. 1 mean 100% probability that it will occur. So if you have a coin which has head on the both side, so then this will not remain a random event. So it probability will of occurrence of head is 100%. If you have a coin, you have specially made a coin who have a head on both sides, and then probability of occurrence is 100%. And so we can use the probability of occurrence, our probability concept for those events which we are not sure, which are not which we cannot predict with surety. This rain event, this flood event are considered similar up till now, and people have relied on the concept of probability in analysis of such series. They were not knowing when the precipitation of 20 millimeter or more than 20 millimeter will come. So then from the past series data, they have calculated what is the probability of occurrence, chances of occurrence, likelihood of occurrence of so much event. So probability, if we take the inverse of the probability, we get the time period, and there are different methods to calculate the time period for a series of data. So these methods are not limited to the rainfall or flood events. So these are the general methods which can tell you the return period for a series of random experiment series of data of random experiment, for example, rainfall or flood. So if n is the number of events in the series of the data, and m is called as the rank of that event. M is the rank of that event in descending order. If we arrange the whole series in descending order and we give rank 1 to the highest data, rank 2 to the next highest, rank 3 to the next value of the data. So M is that rank of that data. So then California method says that return period is N over M. Number of events, total number of events in that series divided by M. So that is the most simple and most seems to be logical, that if I have a 30-year data, and if the highest value of the flow has a rank of 1, so its return period should be 30 divided by 1 mean 30 years. So it has a return period that it will occur once in 30 years. That what data is also showing. And but people say no, we have to change it. Allen has and Weibull, they say, for example, this say Weibull method says that we should add one number in the total number of series, total number of events, and then divide it by m. Reason he say that for data, for example, order of 1, it is not possible that it exactly occurs after 30 years. So people have given this small variations in this data based upon the statistical reasons that we are not sure that it is a 100% probability that it will occur. So Weibull method has given n plus 1 or m as a time period formula. Gumbel have given n divided by m plus c minus 1, where c is another coefficient 0.965 m over n power 0.38. So most commonly used methods are these two methods, Weibull method and the Gumbel method, in which we can calculate the return period of a certain event, and from there we can calculate the probability of occurrence of a certain event. So if this kind of data is with you, which you will be getting from either those who are running the gauging stations. If this is the flood data of last 10-20 years, of course you will be, in actual case, you will be working for data of at least 30 years. Just to reduce the work, only 10-year data, 12-year data is given over here. So method is order them in descending order, and then give them a rank of m, and then calculate the time period, or using this Weibull method, Gumbel, or California method, and calculate the probability. So you will be getting return period of each of these flows. So it has been done in Excel, and you might have to carry it out manually in exam also. So if discharges or the floods are there, so California method simply number of total number of events divided by the rank of this event. So m is written over here. After descending order arrangement, they have been written m over here. So then California method has given us. For Gumbel method, first we have to calculate the C value, and within the C value, m over n is required. So m over n is calculated, then C is calculated, and then time period is calculated. If you have similarly, Weibull method can give you the time period. If you time period is with you, inverse, take the inverse of that, you get the probability. And then we can calculate, we can draw their curves also. Frequency distribution curve can be drawn in this way. Usually we draw it on log curves. X-axis, we draw the return period. On y-axis, we draw the flows or floods on the y-axis. So that is how we carry out the flood frequency analysis to calculate the time period or the probability of occurrence. Sometimes students ask, what will be the return period for a flood having the same values? If there are 2 years having 4600, so what will be the time period we should be mentioning? So there is a flood of 4600 with a return period of, in the Gumbel method, let us say 4.6 years, and same flood 4600, it occurred in another year also. So there's a return period of 3.3 years. So what should be mentioned? So safe is to mention the lower value, because we can expect that flood of 4600 will occur after every 3.3 year. Specifying it as a 4.6 year means you are taking more risk. So 3.3 year is more safer. Specifying the lower value, I think, is more safer. So that is the review of how to carry out the flood frequency analysis. And if you have the flood frequency curve available to you, as I have shown to you over here, actually I have done a little bit ahead, which was not done previously. I got a partial duration curve from a certain site over here, and here is the reference. Method for partial duration curve also, only you see the difference. If I zoom it, for the same year, they are recording flood of more than one peak. So for 71, they have recorded 2. For 72, they have recorded 5, 6 values. So this is a partial duration flood series. So method for analyzing them is same. Write them in a column way, and then sort them in a descending order. sort them in descending order, and then calculate M value for them, and M value should be taken as the total number of year of that record. N value should not be total number of records. Total number of record in partial duration series is, let us say, is 113 data I have, but this is data of 33 years. It is the data of 33 years. So N should be the number of years for which this data is there. So, but only difference is this in frequency analysis using the peak flood, N value is the number of year or number of record, both are the same. But in partial duration curve, this N value is the number of years. Don't count the number of records. While small m, which is the order of that record, varies from 1 to the highest value of 113, whatever are the records. Then rest is the same. Return period is calculated as inverse of the Weibull method. So 1 plus n divided by m. So we can calculate the return period and we can calculate the frequency also. If we draw the return period calculated based upon the partial duration curve or based upon annual flood series, both can be compared in this way. This red one is, can you see them? These red ones are annual flood series. If I make these red one are annual flood series, and this blue one are the partial duration series for the same station, for the same location. For the lower return period, they vary a lot, but for higher return period, when they approaches to the number of year of the data, like 33 year, they are nearly similar. They are giving us the similar results. So both yield similar results for higher return period, but they deviates a lot for the lower values. So that should be kept in mind while using any one of these methods. Usually we use the annual flood series. Because our return period are quite high, we want to design the flood of 100 year, 200 year, 50 years. So in that case, partial duration and annual flood series yield nearly the same results. They don't deviate much. So I stop this topic over here. Our next topic, if you have any question in this topic, you are welcome to ask. I think it's finished after this. So you should be knowing how to carry out flood frequency analysis. There are two kind of series which can be used for flood frequency analysis. One we call as the annual flood series, one we call as the partial duration flood series. Both have objections on it, both have some drawbacks, and both have some shortcomings. And mostly we use the annual flood series. So once you have an annual flood series are the instantaneously or momentarily recorded flood, which is maximum in a whole year, annual maximum in a whole year. So that series, if you have for 30 years, you carry out flood frequency analysis, and the flood frequency analysis can be carried out using formula given by California method, given by Weibull method, given by Gumbel method, and other methods. So Allen-Hazen method. So any of these formula can be selected. Usually we choose Gumbel method to carry out the flood frequency analysis, and you calculate the time period, return time period, or probability. Probability is inverse of this. If you write this formula in inverse order, that will be probability. And we can estimate how much is the return period for each flood. And we can make a flood frequency analysis graph using this data, and we can extend it. Once you have the graph with you, you can extend it for another 30-year period. So for example, over here it is 100 years. So if it is for 33 year over here, so for up to 60-year return period, you can calculate using this log graph. Next is, if you have question, you are welcome. Otherwise, I move towards the next one. Next is flood routing, very important in hydrology, flood routing or flow routing. Flood or flow routing. So what is the concept of this flood routing? Usually this problem comes in front of a hydrologist. He has a gauging station at some place in a watershed. He has a gauge. For example, this stream gauge 1 over here. This is the watershed over here, and this is the hydrograph available to him. Either he made it from the empirical equations or from the hydrograph or hydrograph, or he has observed it. So he has the hydrograph over here. He want to know what will be the peak flow over here, what will be the volume of water reaching over here, what will be the base dip, what will be the hydrograph over here. So question is, what will be the flow condition or hydrograph at some station downstream side. So the method which is used to calculate the hydrograph characteristics at a certain location in a stream, knowing the hydrograph shape at another location upstream side. So that method is called as flow routing. It can be done in a channel. It can be, so usually a channel will be there. So we call it channel routing also. So same is mentioned over here. Proper definition for flow or flood routing is the procedure to determine the flow hydrograph at a point in a watershed from a known hydrograph upstream. Again, I have made a hydrograph over here. The process or the procedure which will give me the flood hydrograph at a location over here, if I know the flood hydrograph over here. Keeping in mind, you should keep in mind, hydrograph is not simply copied on the downstream side. Hydrograph shape do change when flow move from one place to the downstream side. And I have drawn over here all the three flood hydrograph at the first location over here, the second location in the middle part, third location over here. You see their peaks are reducing. We say peaks is attenuating. So their peaks change, and the second thing over here, peak is coming earlier over here. So time of peak is maybe 7 a.m. Over here, peak will be reaching at another time. So peak time is changed. Another variation you observe in these three hydrograph at these three places is base time of the hydrograph. Originally, this flood hydrograph, which was observed at the highest place over here, so it has a base time of, let us say, T duration. So when it reached to the lowest point over here, it has higher base time. So this base hydrograph have enlarged. And another thing you should be noting that volume within these hydrograph remains more or less same. If there is no outtaking from this, and if we ignore the seepage losses out of this channel, so these losses are not there. So volume under the curve more or less remains same. So because there are these variation, peak time, peak base time, and occurrence of the peak value of the peak discharge, they change. So method, a process have to be adopted which can help us calculate these variations. So that method is called as the flood or flow routing. Why do these changes occur? So that is mentioned over here, flow routing. Why flood changes as it moves down? As discharge in a channel increases, when the flood comes, initially flow level discharge increases or stage increases. Its stage also increases, and with it, the volume of the water in the temporary storage in the channel also increases. What is the temporary storage in the channel? So temporary storage in the channel, if I show you the channel, so we can say when flood increases over here, so it increases its level. So there is a slope created within the channel. Water level will be higher at the upper place, water level will be lower at the lower place. So a prism of storage will be created within the channel, in the upper part of the channel. So that we say as a temporary storage, and water will also go to the floodplain area. So this also work as a temporary storage. The sites, floodplains, water stored in there, that can also work as a flood temporary storage, or the prism created at the top of the water surface that can also work as a temporary storage. So when flood occurs, the water is temporarily stored in that temporary storage in the channel, thus causing an attenuated or reduced peak at the downstream gauges. So when the same water reaches downstream, immediately not all the storage, temporary storage water reaches over there. So lower peaks have been seen when the water reaches on the downstream side. And when the discharge reduces, so on the upper gauging station, maybe we are experiencing lower flows, but on the lower locations, temporary storage also now contribute because water level in the channel has reduced. So that water which was stored in the temporary storage that also contribute. This caused a larger base flow at the downstream gauges. So for increasing flood, temporary storage water reduces the peaks at the downstream side as compared to the peak observed at the upper station. We say this is attenuation of the peak. While flood is reducing, so flood have been reduced or stopped at the upper location, still the downstream site is experiencing flood. It means its base time period have increased. The base time period of flood hydrograph has increased. So these are the reasons that it changes the shape of the hydrograph when we move from upper station to the down station. There are two methods. One we call as a lump routing, one we call distributing routing. I think we will be studying it next time. It is 9:52. I don't want to start this method. We need these routing methods known to us. This is a tool which hydrologist should be knowing because frequently he has a hydrograph at one location, but he is interested to find the hydrograph at another location. So then flood routing need to be carried out, or flow routing need to be carried out, either by lumped method or by distributed method. HEC HMS is a software which we use in hydrology that carry out lumped routing. HEC RAS is a software which we use in hydraulics that carry out distributed routing. So what are the difference between them? We can go through it next time. So I stop it over here. Your questions are welcome. Our suggestions are welcome. So thank you very much. I am stopping the recording, but still questions are welcome. So if no question, lecture is being
सर
जी बोलो
सर ये एक कॉमन क्वेश्चन था जैसे रावी रिवर है उसमें एल्डर एज पीपल ने सुना है लास्ट फ्लड 1988 में आया है तो यानी हम रिटर्न पिन फाइंड करना चाहें तो वो किस तरह पता चलेगा यानी कि इतनी इयर्स के बाद अगर एस्टिमेशन लगाना चाहे कि दोबारा फ्लड आ सकता है
मुझे जो समझ आ रही है पहले तो मुझे साथ समझना रावी रिवर है इसमें 1988 में एक हाई फ्लड आया था तो फिर
तो सर मैं यही पूछना चाह रहा था अगर दोबारा हम एस्टिमेशन लगाना चाहे रिटर्न पीरियड ऑफ फ्लड यानी दोबारा कितने रिटर्न पीरियड के बाद ही आ सकता है तो हम कौन सा मेथड यूज करेंगे जो हमने चार भी पढ़े हैं एलन हेजल कैलिफोर्निया वेलबेल और गंबल्स वाले में
तो मैंने बताया ना ये वीबल या गंबल फ्रीक्वेंटली हम यूज करते हैं यहाँ पे मेथड फॉर फाइंडिंग द रिटर्न पीरियड ऑफ अ सीरीज ऑफ फ्लड डाटा यही मेथड गंबल मेथड हम लगाते हैं वीबल मेथड लगाते हैं मोस्ट फ्रीक्वेंटली गंबल्स मेथड इज यूज्ड ठीक है
ओके सर थैंक यू
तो उससे हम ये भी चेक कर सकते हैं कि ये फ्लड कितने रिटर्न पीरियड का था फॉर एग्जांपल प्रीवियस ईयर इफ आई गेट वेरी ह्यूज फ्लड एंड आई हैव series of 30-50 year data so that will be ranked number 1 अगर मैंने बहुत ही हिस्टोरिकली हाई फ्लड रिसीव किया है yesterday so that will be ranked in the series as number 1 जो अगर पिछले उन सब बाकी सारे फ्लड से ज्यादा है so this flood frequency analysis can calculate the return period of the known time period जिसका known है but when you draw the hydrograph you will if it is of very high value you will see that in the log graph that will not be a smooth curve that graph will be placed somewhere else so from there if it is not smoothly rising curve and one point is out of the curve we can say that this is an abnormality this is flood of not this much return period this is very high flood so for example 2010 में पाकिस्तान में historically peak flood आया था. If somebody select data of 2020 and previously he goes 30 years back up to 1990, so 2010 flood will be there. So this flood frequency analysis will yield that 2010 flood was of 30-year return period. No, it was not a 30-year return period. That is the drawback of this method, that highest return period it gives equal to the number of years of the record. So we have to see if the all the points are coming within the smooth line. If there is some abnormal point, we take it out and then we carry out the flood frequency analysis. और हमारे पास और मेथड अवेलेबल है which can tell us what is the return period of a 1000-year return flood. So ये जो 2010 का फ्लड था, it is said to be close to the 1000-year flood return period. So 30 साल का डाटा हमें नहीं बता सकता कि 1000-year का रिटर्न पीरियड क्या था. तो वो हम फिर दूसरे मेथड से और मेथड जो आपको मास्टर्स में पढ़ाए जाएंगे उनसे हम फ्लड फ्रीक्वेंसी एनालिसिस कैरी आउट करते हैं. ठीक है. So these 3-4 methods can be used for smaller structures like culverts, like small bridges, not for high valued structures. Okay. Thank you very much.